Shanti, how are you? Hope you are all doing fine. You must have watched pet animal videos from Taylor Nicole Dean's channel. She was one of the very few successful YouTubers who managed to get million subscribers within a year of starting their channel. She was regular in uploading her videos to the channel, but for strange reasons, there were no videos uploaded for 6 months in a row. Not only that, she did not brush her teeth, she did not take shower for 8 months in a row. And she doesn't even bother to go to the restroom to pee. So it all happened because of the depression she was suffering from, that was initially started by her meeting her boyfriend Johnny online. So at the time of meeting him online, she also knew that he was alleged of abusing his ex-girlfriend. Despite that, she accepted him to be her lover mainly because she had such a low self-esteem. She was lonely most of her life, mainly because she had some autoimmune disorder, because of which she couldn't continue after 5th grade. And it actually reveals the reason why many marriages end up in divorce. Not that they did not receive any negative signals while they were in love. They obviously received it, but as Taylor revealed, it was because of the lowest self-esteem one has that they just overlook those negative signs and they just want to be with them somehow. But after a few months after marriage, they were no longer sexually attracted to each other, as it happens, as it is common with all marriages. But now those negative signs become larger and larger, that they reach a point that they can no longer withstand each other. But Johnny informed Taylor right from the beginning that he was a heroin addict for 10 years. Usually, after hearing about the allegations of abuse and heroin addiction, any girl would turn off the offer. But she accepted to be with him mainly because she was fascinated by the term addiction, because she wanted to know what it is, because she experienced a part of addiction while she was 18. That was the first time she was offered vodka, and in a party, while she was surrounded with people taking vodka in a very normal way, she decided that it's okay to take vodka. So she just tried three sips of it. She actually hated the taste of it, so she didn't take any more of it, and she did not experience high out of it. So she went to bed, slept nicely. In the morning, to her surprise, she was constantly bombarded by the thoughts in her mind saying that I need more vodka, I need more vodka. Her mind was craving for vodka, and it actually surprised her because she didn't even felt high while she was taking vodka. So she decided to order for it the next day, and she took vodka to the extent that she has gone fully drunk. So she continued that for 3 consecutive days. Then she left it. And after 2 days, she was in another party where someone served her cocaine, which she initially refused. Then all of a sudden, she said, okay, let me give it a try. So she had very little bit of vodka and she doesn't like the taste of it. Like before, she went to bed. In the morning, her whole body was shaking like hell. She was sweating all over and she has these strange thoughts of committing suicide, and she even texted some of her friends that she was going to die. And while she was crossing the street, she was standing there debating with somebody saying that I want to commit suicide right now by falling in front of the car. So all of a sudden she had this thought, it would be nice if I have vodka now. She didn't know how she got that thought. So with the help of her friend, she managed to take vodka for 3 more days. Then she couldn't get any more, but still uh, it stayed with her. The after effects of that drug stayed with her for 3 weeks, where she was completely obsessed with suicidal thoughts. And that is the main reason she is fascinated to know about addiction when her boyfriend reveals about his addiction nature. So, despite all the opposition by her parents, she moved to live with Johnny in a separate apartment. So he had many connections with drug dealers, because of which he is able to provide her with the cocaine. So both were having cocaine together, but after a few days, he came home late, and she was very shocked when he came late that his pupil in the eye was completely gone. There was just a dot. That's when she understood that he must have taken opiates, but he refused to admit in the beginning. Then later he admitted. Not only that, he was behaving very strangely, using many curse words. She was abusing her. So she cried and confronted him to give that up, and he agreed upon it, but it lasted only for 3 or 4 days. Then again, he came intoxicated with opiates. Again, he behaved very strangely. So she knew that this he is very addicted and it's creating a big problem for her now. And although she wanted to leave him, she couldn't, because he was kneeling right before her, pleading not to leave him alone, because she is the best that can ever happen to him. So this continues repeatedly. At one point, she couldn't take it any longer. So just to forget that, just to come out of those negative emotions, she took a tablet that gives her euphoria so that she could sleep peacefully. Anyway, by the time he wakes up, she is going to be sober. Long story short, the tablet then changes to some drug that is more intense, then to another drug that is even more intense, then finally to heroin, where she becomes completely addicted. Then she sought the help of some medicine to remove the withdrawal symptoms because she really wanted to come out of it. So every time she takes the drug, she would be saying to herself that it is going to be the last, but the next day she will find herself craving for it both physically and mentally. So finally she started taking some drug to relieve her of withdrawal symptoms. So that was there for a while. Then again she started depending on heroin. She became so addicted that she couldn't do any more videos. She was constantly injecting herself with heroin. Then she started developing rashes all over the body. So to cover that up, she would be wearing full sleeves while taking videos, or she'll be trying her best to hide the track marks. Finally, she decided to confess this in a YouTube video so that would give her strength to stay sober for the rest of her life. But that goes totally against her. So 3 years back, she posted a video saying that all addicts should seek help. So by constantly seeking help, we'll be able to come out of addiction. But just a week or two before, she has just posted that despite visiting so many psychiatrists, she is still having that problem. It makes her body or mind is not any way better, though she is really trying hard. And what pisses her off more than drug is the thought of his ex-lover, because they separated. And the doctors revealed it to her that she has some kind of inborn disease because of which she has that strange craving just after initial intake of very small amount of alcohol. And because not everybody has that craving, they will have to take multiple number of times to get addicted, but the reason she has that craving in the initial stage itself is mainly because of some sort of illness. But the same goes with any other addiction. So the reason for this difference is in the soul. It is because the soul has lost its power that it becomes addicted to anything that attracts it in a very short span of time. Actually, it comes from previous births. For that, you need to understand that we are not this perishable body, but the soul that operates this body. It is the soul that actually sees through the eyes, listens through the ears, performs everything using this body. And this soul was present in another body that could be male or female, but obviously it's going to be human body forever. Those souls normally do not remember anything from its previous birth, but still it inherits the character from the previous birth. Especially if you are prone to any type of addiction in your previous birth, your soul will lose power. So there is a pretty good chance that when you are exposed to the similar addictive substance in this birth, you will become so addicted very earlier in this birth. But that need not always be the case. For example, if you are addicted to sex in your previous birth, that would also decrease the soul power. So in the next birth, so during your childhood, obviously you will not be exposed to anything sexual. So, but if you are exposed to drugs, you will start developing addiction towards that drug, because when your soul is depleted of its power of purity, it will have this tendency of creating more amount of thoughts, especially surrounding something that you are attracted to. If your soul is very weak, no matter how many drugs you take to come out of addiction, no matter how many psychiatrists you visit, you are still not going to come out of addiction. It's mainly because you did pretty much nothing to fill your soul with the power of purity, because nobody knows that, nobody teaches that. So only God has the solution for that, and it is actually because of this God comes towards the end of the world. To be exact, he comes 100 years before the destruction of this world called Kali Yuga. He enters an old man's body to give this knowledge, because God doesn't take birth like us from a mother's womb, which is why nobody sees God. He names that old man Brahma and starts giving knowledge using Brahma's mouth. And this knowledge is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahma Kumaris Rajog meditation center that spread across the world. And the knowledge is called Murli. It is available in all languages, online, in some websites and several YouTube channels. I'll be giving the links of some of them in the description below. Please make use of it, or visit the nearest Brahma Kumaris Rajog meditation centers. You can search for the address by googling it yourself. So when God created us 5000 years back, while this world was heaven, because God creates this world as heaven, the same world that we live in was originally heaven in the beginning. That was 5000 years before. For the first 2500 years, the world continued to be heaven, mainly because we have no addiction towards anything. We were not attracted towards anything, but still we will stay happy for the first 2500 years, mainly because we were soul conscious. That is, we considered ourselves to be the soul and not this body. So since your concentration is pretty much on yourself, that is the soul, you experience blissfulness constantly, because the very true nature of the soul itself is blissfulness and peacefulness. So we stayed content and happy without depending on our happiness from the external environment or from someone external to us. So we ourselves were embodiment of blissfulness. But after 2500 years, the world becomes hell, mainly because we were no longer soul conscious, we become body conscious, because of which we become addicted to sensual pleasures, because we can no longer experience blissfulness from within, because we are no longer soul conscious. So that's how we become addicted to sensual pleasures. Thereby our soul loses its power at a rapid rate, because of which we become slaves for the five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego, which are collectively called sinful acts. So by committing more and more sins, we start losing all the wealth, health, beauty and everything God originally blessed us with in heaven. So that's the reason we start getting many diseases, we start having conflict between family members, we start having wars, we start experiencing natural calamities. Everything happens mainly because of the sins we have been committing because of body consciousness. And it is because of body consciousness that our soul can no longer have control over our mind. The mind itself is an integral part of the soul and not the brain. That is the main reason no matter what drug you take, it's not going to change the way the mind produces thoughts. Because while in heaven, we don't produce unnecessary thoughts, we don't produce this number of thoughts, we will produce very less number of thoughts, because there is no need to think of several things there. There's nothing absolutely to worry about, and moreover it is because our souls were powerful, that it had total control over its mind, so it doesn't produce unnecessary thoughts because it drains energy from the soul. And that is the reason there were absolutely no sins while we were in heaven. And in case you wonder if there were no lust, how will the child be born? Well, children will be born by yogic power, which means the power of thoughts. When husband and wife, when they produce thoughts of having children, the wife gets pregnant. That's the power of the thoughts produced by the pure souls of heaven. And that is why the residents of heaven, called deities, were worshipped by Hindus till date by building temples to them. But what we are not aware of is it was us who were originally deities in the beginning, but after taking several rebirths, our souls lose the power gradually, and God in the end comes to this world mainly to give this knowledge about how our soul has lost its power gradually over the course of 5,000 years, and how to fill the soul with power again. So God is the Almighty Authority because He is filled with power all the time. So by considering ourselves to be the souls again, and by connecting our mind to God Shiva, who is a point of light in the golden red colored light world. So this God Shiva is being called Allah by Muslims and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. So God is only one, He comes only once, that is towards the end of the world, and gives this teaching. Why? To create heaven, not to create any religion. Jesus Christ come just before the need to create Christianity, because the sole purpose of Him is to create a religion. So the same applies to all religious founders. But God doesn't come to create religion, but to create heaven. And this world gets destroyed so that it gets renewed back to heaven. But our soul doesn't become pure just like that. So we need to put effort. So God guides us to purify ourselves. How do we do that? By considering ourselves to be the soul constantly, and then by remembering God as a point of light in the golden red colored light world as much as possible, that our soul regains the power that it has lost. So in addition to remembering God Shiva as a point of light, we also need to read Murli regularly preferably in the morning, then you need to churn over the important knowledge points from Murli throughout the day, so that you keep your mind constantly occupied only with the knowledge points of God. So this strengthens the soul. Actually, remembering God strengthens the soul, purifies the soul, which is quite essential for imbibing these knowledge points so that our character becomes divine. Since our soul is very weak now, God says it is by interacting with this world that our soul becomes more and more weak, which means it gets addicted, so that it gets addicted to those five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego. So anything that you see, listen from this world will provoke you into producing these five vices over and over again. So that's the reason God wants us to quarantine ourselves from this world at a mental level. It is impossible to quarantine ourselves physically all the time. So at a mental level, we need to consider ourselves to be belonging to a subtle age called confluence age. For the rest of the world, this is the Iron Age or Kali Yuga. But only for those who receive the knowledge of God directly from God, this is the confluence age, or you can call that as the Diamond Age. Because it is only in this confluence age that we become as pure as the deities themselves. So because we were originally deities, so obviously we need to become deities by remembering God as much as possible. So this happens every 5,000 years once. So that's why this is called a kalpa, a 5,000 year time cycle. The significance of this kalpa is whatever happens in one kalpa keeps repeating kalpa after kalpa accurately. To understand it easily, if you are watching this video now, it obviously means you have watched this video 5,000 years back in the last kalpa on the very same date. So you will obviously be watching kalpa after kalpa on the very same date and year. If by any chance Taylor knew about the existence of Brahma Kumari's Rajoga meditation organization, if she had visited the Brahma Kumari center and started taking classes either online or offline, I bet she would be completely out of not only addiction to drugs but addiction to anything, because more than drugs, sex is the number one addiction. The reason no one complains about it is mainly because they think it is normal, but unfortunately everybody is addicted. But not everybody commits rape, just like not everybody gets addicted in the first time they get exposed to the drug like Taylor. So Taylor in one video says if you start taking the addictive drug repeatedly, whether it's alcohol or drug, you will definitely become addicted. But she fails to say that about sex. Everybody is involving in sex on regular basis, more often so at a mental level. It is such a greatest addiction, which is why God says lust is the greatest enemy, because of which we have lost all the power of the soul, because of which we have lost everything God blessed us with in heaven. That's the main reason for Brahma Kumaris. The number one order given by God is to give up lust initially, followed by other vices. So since Taylor said that she had been dating since she was 13, there's no surprise that she got so addicted at the first time she took vodka, because the engaging in any type of sexual acts, whether at mental level or physical level, will drain soul of its power to the point that when it gets exposed to some other addictive thing, it will start developing addictive habit very quickly. And moreover, it is carried from the previous birth as well. So she is not only addicted to the drug, but also she is addicted to that lover, that relationship. So that is and the only time you will understand how addicted you are is when you are pulled away from that addictive person or addictive drug. So now what she needs to do mainly is to remember God as a point of light, and she needs to immediately take Murli knowledge that's available in those websites. I'll be giving the links of them in the description, and if possible she can visit the nearest Brahma Kumaris center, and she'll be more than happy that at least now she could find the correct way. So it is because of addiction that she is unable to do any work, because the soul has no power, which means soul will have no drive. So that's the symptom of how weak your soul is. So that is the main reason majority of students at school perform very poor in academic, because it involves concentration. Maybe they can perform good at sports, in which concentration is not that much required. So we are all addicted to everything around us, at least to a lesser degree, and to some things to a large extent. So that is why God wants us to stay away from this world, to have this habit of not seeing and listening to anything that's going on around the world. Don't take it inside. The only way to do that is to keep your mind busy with the knowledge points of God. So churn over the Murli points throughout the day, so that's going to give you happiness gradually. And the difference between the happiness that you derive by remembering God and by remembering the knowledge points, and the pleasure that you derive from the material things, is the pleasure you get out of these worldly things will make you functionless. You cannot function. But on the other hand, the happiness and blissfulness that you get by being soul conscious and by remembering God, or by churning over the knowledge points of God throughout the day, will actually keep your soul awakened all the time, so that you will stay happy from within. You don't depend on anything external to us to stay happy. Moreover, you will be able to perform anything without getting distracted, but you don't get addicted to that work. You don't get addicted to the result of that work. If you get addicted, that is also an addiction. Actually, that adds to the pain, especially in this case. Taylor not only suffers from the depression because of her addiction to drug or her addiction to relationship, but also on her addiction to the success as a successful YouTuber. So we need to detach ourselves from the results of actions that we perform. So it is true the result will make you happy, but if you let that into your mind, that itself is enough to make you dysfunctional. That is why this meditation technique is called Raja Yoga, which is also called Karma Yoga, which means yoga. That is, yoga means connecting your mind to God. So you are connecting your mind to God while you are performing any task. So this is not the kind of meditation that you perform by sitting in your complex. Well, you can do that while you are sitting too, but it is not restricted to that. You are going to be in a meditative state throughout the day, no matter what you do, because that's how long you need to meditate to make your soul strong, because your soul has been becoming weak for the past 2500 years. So it's not going to become strong just like that by performing meditation just for 30 minutes or 1 hour. So it's a lifelong journey, but the result, you can easily see the result within few weeks or few months of meditation, especially when you are suffering from such addictions. You can see the result for yourself. So as in this example, at one point her Taylor's lover, he wants to have cocaine just by seeing Taylor using cocaine all the time. So that's the thing. No matter how many rehab centers you visit, no matter how many times you undergo strenuous training, you are still going to relapse. But on the other hand, by doing Raja Yoga, you are increasing the power of the soul, so that the next time you see the addictive substance, you are not only that you are not going to get addicted, but also you have this strange dislike for those addictive things and dislike for all worldly pleasures in general, because you are going to derive pleasure from within. As a matter of fact, you yourself will become the embodiment of blissfulness. So without increasing the power of the soul, no matter what you do, it will not help. Even in Taylor's case, she tried to stay away from addiction by making herself busy with taking care of animals, but that didn't help for a long term. Obviously, even by taking care of animals or by keeping yourself busy with any manual work, your soul is going to become weak gradually. So at one point you will constantly be bombarded with addictive thoughts, so you will definitely relapse. So this is the only solution to come out of all sorts of addiction. You can come out of 6 altogether. That is quite impossible by applying any other method. So I sincerely hope that Taylor try this Raja Yoga herself, so that she can be a living example to spread the message to the whole world, so that everybody becomes blissful without depending on the worldly materials. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching. Spread the word around as much as possible.